All right, this video I'm going to be looking at section 13.2, consumer credit. This is going to wind up depending heavily on what we did in the previous section in terms of the simple interest formulas. All right, so consumer credit takes the form of loans extended to people who borrow money to finance the purchase of things. So really, credit cards is actually a form of consumer credit. What we're going to look at primarily, though, would be a type of consumer credit called an installment loan. These are used when you're buying cars, furniture, appliances, kind of large, big-ticket items that you typically don't want to put on a credit card. You sometimes can work out a loan with the place where you're buying the item, or sometimes you can go to a credit union or a bank to get a loan from them. Okay? An installment loan is sometimes called closed-end credit. There is open-end credit. That's what we're talking about when you have a credit card. Credit cards are basically little loans that you take out to be able to buy things on credit rather than paying cash. It's a little different. It's open-ended credit because the balance can fluctuate. As you buy more things, your balance goes up. As you make a payment to the credit card company, your balance goes down. And you typically could borrow up to whatever credit limit they've given you. I have some information about that at the end of this. All right, so here what we're doing is borrowing a set amount up front, and we already know at the beginning how much interest we're going to pay on that. So we could calculate what our payments are going to be each time. Okay, so you use this a lot of times to buy cars, furniture, and appliances. All right, so these are often based on what is sometimes called add-on interest. It's really simple interest. Okay. All right, so the interest is calculated using the simple interest formula, the I equal PRT. Then that amount that you're going to owe is added to the principal amount that you borrowed, and that tells you how much you have to repay. And then what we'll do is we'll cut that amount up into equal payments. You'll agree on like a term for your loan, and you'll you'll divide up how much you have to repay into equal installments. Installment is really just another word for a payment, okay? So we already know a formula to figure out the amount that would have to be repaid on a loan if we were dealing with simple interest, okay? All right, the amount borrowed would be your P. The interest due, that's your I, and it's calculated, that interest is calculated using PRT, isn't it? So we could add the amount borrowed, and then the interest is really PRT. We could add those two, and that'll tell us the amount that needs to be repaid. That's like the future amount of that loan. All right, then that amount is going to be paid off in equal periodic installments, usually monthly, okay? So you'll typically agree on this with either the furniture place, or like if you bought it from Home Depot on installment, okay, or from a car dealer. You'll have a certain term for your loan, and that'll determine what you divide by to determine your monthly payments. All right, so let's do an example. All right, so on this one, Zach is going to buy $2,800 worth of furniture. So he goes ahead and pays them $400 down. That means he gives them that up front. Then he's going to take out a loan to cover the rest. And he agrees to pay the balance at 6% add-on interest for 2 years. Okay, so we have to find a variety of things. So we want to find the amount financed. That's really the amount borrowed, right? It's the same as the amount borrowed. So the furniture was worth $2,800, but he already paid $400. So if you subtract those, you'll wind up getting the answer to the question. So he only needs to borrow $2,400. Okay. So the amount he's going to have to repay, all right, that's that formula, could be calculated by using this formula here that we've used earlier. That $2,400 is the amount he's borrowing. Now, the interest rate is 6%, so that's 0.06, and he's going to not pay it back until 2 years, for 2 years. So the time would be 2. So when you work that out, you wind up with $2,688. So that's the total amount he'd have to repay back. So you see when you think about that, okay, so that's the answer to part B. That was the answer to part A. Okay, when you think about that, he only borrowed $2,400, but he's paying back $2,688. That difference, that $288, that would be the interest. So that added fee for borrowing the money rather than paying for it all up front. Okay. So if I had needed that, the interest, I might have calculated this whole problem differently. If I knew I needed the interest, what I could do, is I could have just done I equals PRT and plugged in the $2,400 I borrowed times the 0.06 times the 2, and that would have given me the interest directly. And then if I needed the total amount to be repaid, what I could have done is taken the P and added the interest I just calculated. So I could take the $2,400 and add the $288. So which way I go about it kind of depends on the questions I'm being asked. So if they're asking me for just the interest, then I might want to do this route first because that's the interest. Okay. So you have options. You want to try to really make sense of this. And you also want to understand what each of these questions is really asking you for. And then use your common sense. All of us are consumers. And so we may have done things such as this before, like with a phone, buying a new phone, things like that. All right, now if I need to calculate what my monthly payment would be, I'm going to have to pay a total of $2,688, and I'm going to pay that off in 2 years, and I want equal monthly payments. So that means I have to think about how 2 years equals 2 times 12 or 24 months, doesn't it? So if I'm paying that off, that total amount off in 24 months, then I'm going to take that and divide by 24. And when I do, I wind up getting $112. So I would pay $112 every month for 24 months. And that would pay them not just the $2,400 I borrowed, but also that added little $288 in interest. All right, so let's think about this then. So that furniture really cost you more than $2,800, didn't it? That furniture was really $2,800 plus that added amount of interest, that added $288, so the $3,088. Okay. All right. The other way to think about it is the total amount I repaid was the $2,688, but didn't I already pay $400 in my down payment? So I've already paid $400 towards the cost of the furniture. So that also would give me the $3,088. Both of those work. You just do the one that makes sense to you. Okay. So this is the original cost of the furniture plus the interest. This is the amount to be repaid plus the down payment. Okay. and both of them give you that total cost.